Now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. Thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. We're going to have a great show. We have Cash Peters back talking about, does your life matter? So I guess we're going to find out all about that. But don't forget, Just Energy Radio is brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics, where you can jumpstart your intuition by downloading our free 50-page guide. Go to www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. That's appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. And always it's brought to you by soulhealer.com, where you can find out about all the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, energy healing, and psychic readings. So if there's stuff going on in your life, give me a call, drop me an email, and we can set up a time for a private consultation anywhere in the world. So let me tell you a little bit about Cash and bring him on the air. Cash Peters is an award-winning author and journalist. He is also a naturally gifted handwriting analyst who, almost 20 years ago, discovered that he had an amazing and significant talent for perceiving other people's energy through their writing and then channeling an interpretation of that energy. And now he has a new book out, Why Your Life Matters, and we're going to be talking to him about that. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio, Cash Peters. Hey, Cash, how are you?
Hey, you. Welcome back me, huh? How many times have I done this show now? It's so great.
This is number 3.
Wow. I love the way we go, and he's this handwriting analyst. He does this amazing thing. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his book.
Well, I just read what I got,
Exactly.
And it's just like, okay, well.
Whatever.
Hey, at least I could read it, and you didn't have any words in there that I have to go, I'm going to just skip that word and just move on.
I know. What's really funny is, and I'm not making a point here, but it's like people have said to me, like, when they've seen the cover of the book and they go, oh my God, what a great cover. I love that. And then they look at it a little bit more and they go, oh, that title. You always have good titles for your books. And then they just put it down and walk off. It never occurs to them, like, open it and go, I wonder what's in here. Nobody goes, I wonder what's in the contents of this book. They just look at the title and the cover and go, oh, wow, that's so great. And so I'm always pleased when anybody's even opened the bloody thing.
Well, see, if it were me, I'd be like, but wait a minute. You're supposed to buy a copy. I mean, yelling after them.
Oh, well, no, yeah, I'm not that. I have a funny attitude to that. Somebody who was trying to fix up an interview with me for next week said, well, what we want to do is we want you to send a newsletter, the newsletter you do. I said, what newsletter? They go, yeah, but the newsletter to all your followers and tell them to listen to this thing and buy your book. And I said, but I don't have followers and I don't have a newsletter. It's like, it's very unusual for somebody not to be pushy in this country and be saying, buy my thing, I'm not that desperate. I'd love you to read it. But if you don't, I only have an investment in the book itself. If you don't want to read it, that's fine.
But anything that you write is always so well written that it's just an enjoyable read. It's just an enjoyable read. And I enjoyed this one. And just to let you know, I actually made it through about 50% of the book.
Oh, hey, thank you so much. Because I knew you've been so busy in your private life with stuff that I thought, of all the people, everybody else I know who's interviewing me has read it. But I thought, this woman I will give a free pass to. I know what you're going through. And I thought, what for once we'll busk it, we'll wing it through. But thank you very much for reading it.
No, and it was a very enjoyable read. I was getting very tired from washing windows and lifting carpet that I'm like, I got to go get ready for the show. And I found the one chair, because I haven't moved in yet, technically, that's in the house, and just put my butt in it and was like, oh, this is good. Had a big glass of water and enjoyed entering into that world.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. It's a deceptively easy world. In fact, when you get into it, there's a lot to it, I know, but I love the fact that people are even dipping their toe in. That's fantastic.
So this book, unlike your other, you always write in kind of a memoir-y kind of format, but this one is more fictional, I'm assuming, because you're not Nigel. And
yeah.
but what gave you the idea to, write a book that gets into this topic about life and kind of metaphysical kind of topics, but put it into more of a novel format?
Yeah, it wasn't my first choice, actually, doing a novel. I've written 2 novels already, and they work as novels, and it's great, and people buy them, and I love that. But I was just simply going to do, a self-help book, a non-fiction book that told you some really interesting life principles that I had discovered by traveling around the world and talking to different people. And that was what it was going to be. And the weird thing is, and I don't know whether you can relate to this, you probably can, it's just that I don't have a right, really, to tell you how you should live. I don't have a right to say, here's why your life matters, Rita, because you might have a different view. And so when it came down to it, it simply didn't work as a lecture to you about why your life matters. There's something about this topic that doesn't lend itself to a broad-based book, because it's almost like a therapy session. I could sit down with you individually and say, here's my take on why your life matters. I don't know that I could do that to a broad audience, and that's actually what happened. So eventually, after a couple of tries, I put it in a novel format, very, very trepidatiously. I really wasn't into that at all, but it flowed so well. And I just continued with it. And when it was finished, I let a couple of people read it and just said, look, if you hate this, you will not hurt my feelings. I'll stick it in a drawer. You will never see this again. It's just something I got out of my system. But they loved it. Loved it, not in a pandering, oh, he's my friend kind of way, but in a really deeply absorbing everything kind of way. And I thought, oh, maybe we have something here then. Because this is a very complicated topic in the sense that everybody's searching. If you look out in the world right now, I don't know if it's true where you are, but it's certainly true in LA. Among my friends, among people I meet, people are panicked in some weird way. It's like everything's accelerating around them. All this external stuff is going on. They're losing their jobs, their marriages are breaking down, they're getting sick, or whatever these crises are. And life wasn't supposed to go this way. Life was supposed to be something you controlled. You studied, you went to college, you got a job, and you had control over your life. And increasingly, over the last, maybe the time frame we're talking about, but I'm thinking like 5-8 years maybe, people have felt the reins slipping out of their hands. And in the same way that you would get a plumber, or maybe maybe you wouldn't right now, but you get a plumber who would come to your house and you say, look, my plastic shower is leaking. What do I do? And the plumber would go, oh, I know how to fix that. And would go in and would fix it. You don't know how to do it, but your plumber does. Or you get an IT guy to come in and fix your computer. You don't know how to do it, but the IT guy does. When I heard all my friends' marriages started breaking down, and when the people started losing their careers and everything started falling apart, coinciding with what was going on generally in the country and the world, actually. But when that happened, people would talk to me, and I thought, I know about this. I didn't even know this was my expertise, but I understand this topic. I know what's going on. And from that point onwards, that's when the book came together, because I thought I can just put this in a book and explain to people what is going on, why their lives are turning out in this way, in this context, and maybe that will help them. And that's why the book is as it is.
Well, and one of the things that I really like about it is that you can really relate to the main character and kind of, see your life through his eyes and his situation, even though it's not, you maybe, for example, I can't say I have never had a car wreck, but, let's say I've never had a car wreck, but, you can relate to him, or someone who's had that kind of situation in their life and the things that they've gone through. And so it was good that way. And I agree. I think that doing it as it comes off better in this way, in the novel format, because it's like you're reading about yourself almost. Yeah,
in a funny kind of way, I agree. And I think also, as well as, people have experienced car wrecks and things going wrong in their lives, I think we've all asked the questions that are asked in the book. Hopefully, the book actually provides the answers. But we've asked these questions, and one of them would be, which you get from the early part of the book, is am I being guided and guarded in my life, or am I out here on my own? Is it all about what choices I make, or is somebody guiding my hand? Is there another hand on the tiller? And really, the plot of the book just sits on, like, it's like the flesh on the bones, and the bones are this whole thing of, are we guided and guarded, or are we on our own? Is it an external universe where we go out there and we just affect it by being among people and doing our thing and having goals and setting intentions or whatever it is? Or could we relax and coast a little, and, as it says in the book, take our oars out of the water and go with the current, because in fact we are guided and there's something greater working? I can't believe that most people haven't asked that question and sought the answer to that question.
I think there's a lot of people that just don't pay attention to the guidance that they're getting, that they might listen to it, but there's a disconnect. I mean, I know that in my own life, or even with people that I know, it's like there's a part of us that will listen to the guidance, and then we go into resistance to what we're being told or whatever, and we just find that we end up banging our head against that same wall over and over and over and over again, and being unhappy, and then we wonder why it's not working.
Yeah, but don't you think also, obviously you have clients and you deal with people and you listen to their stories, don't you find that people increasingly, I don't know if this is true 20 years ago in America, but it's true now, that people feel that somewhere in the midst of what's been happening, a promise, a fundamental, almost primal promise has been broken. That it used to be called, I guess, the American dream. You work hard, you apply yourself, you get an education, and then life from then on has a certain amount of, certainty to it, a degree of certainty that you could stick with your job and you could buy a house and get the car and have a family and so on. And that was the promise of the American dream for decades. And what has happened is that the people didn't get that. Increasingly, things stepped in, and it's an accelerated pace. They're stepping in, and they look at their lives, and they're going, hey, wait, what? Oh, I mean, how did I get here? How come I have no money? How come my house is foreclosed? Where did my marriage go? And where is my slice of American pie, the American dream? And I think that this is and what people are finding out is that there is a difference. And this is, I think, what is the core of the book, or just what I believe actually as a person. There's a difference between what you believe and what you know. Mm-hmm. Because you're a member of a tribe, and perhaps like 20 tribes, your church tribe, your peer group tribe, your school tribe, all these tribes you're a member of. You have been indoctrinated, sometimes in a lovely way, with a lot of ideas that aren't necessarily your own and which take you away from what you actually know. And that what you actually know is what connects you. This is this umbilical to, whatever you want to call it, the divine or whatever. But it's there and you know it. If you could step away from the belief system and rely more and trust more what you already have inside. And I think that's what people are being faced with now. Their promise has been broken. The American dream kind of got warped somehow, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And now they're going, well, I don't know what to do. But you do. You do know what to do. It's right there, but you have to step back to get it.
Well, I mean, but even in talking about that concept, the idea of retirement and Social Security, and for people, I'm going to say our age that grew up, with that whole belief system, work hard, you get retirement, you can live successfully, get the golden watch at the end of the road. And, there's a big difference between young people now who grew up on you have to have a 401k, and you have to plan for your own retirement. I mean, they are coming in with a completely different belief system on life.
Right. Well, I agree, but don't you also think that there's a parallel thing to that? That's the established societal expectation. So that's been going on for decades. That sort of thing of you compete, you become the best, you strive, you struggle, you make your way through life, and everything's a struggle and a fight. And suddenly, but simultaneously, what people were sold, not everybody, but a lot of them, were sold these kind of New Age principles. And I say New Age, I'm making little rabbit ears in the air with my fingers. This idea that abundance was there if only you alter your mindset. Or prosperity would be yours if you just meditated and were mindful of your thoughts and all this sort of stuff that we've been brought up on. But abundance, prosperity, and riches, and how many books have been written with abundance, prosperity, and riches in the title? Just millions. Mm-hmm. And people do these things, and they go to seminars and they listen to tapes and so on. And at the end, they look at their life and they go, the only people who got abundance, prosperity, and riches are the people who made these bloody tapes and wrote the books. And I think that what is actually going on here is that there's a disillusionment creeping in over either the terminology maybe or just the very core principles themselves. It's like, where's my slice of the pie? I meditated. I affirmed. I was told that my desires would manifest if only I would raise my vibration. And they did all these things, and they find out it doesn't actually work. And I just wonder whether that isn't a major source of, in the modern world, of disillusionment and frustration and anger.
And I think that could be a part of it, but I think that when the people put out these books and tapes and CDs, that, they're kind of misleading people as to what the big picture is and how to have it, and how to get it. And hang on one second. There was a chapter. Yeah, you had a chapter in the book that was called, I could read my own handwriting, Expecting Nothing and Accepting Everything.
Yeah.
And I think that I love that title because it takes away the hoping, wishing, and praying and makes it be more real. Because if you just put out that I want to be happy and you look for those things that are going to make you happy, or whatever, then you can accept anything. The smile from somebody walking down the street, you're able to receive it.
Yeah, I mean, I think people don't accept reality. Again, it comes back to the word dream. You hear the word dream all the time, American dream, and people are dreamers and all this stuff. But actually, I think we've lived in this dream that was as far from reality as it could possibly get. And we live in this world of constant expectation. And we expect that certain things will happen because they happened yesterday, they'll happen tomorrow, that we will have a job for the next 10 years, or we will be paid money, or that we will be living in such a house, such and such a house. And I think that what happens is, or what's increasingly happening, is that people are going, whoa, now hang on, maybe what I was expecting isn't in any way a reality. And therefore, the difference between what you expect and what you get is the cause of the frustration. So why bother with all that investment of energy and what might not happen? Just enjoy the now. Seek wholeness in your life in the now. Own now, and just do what you can with now, and then don't worry about expectations. So when it says expect nothing and accept everything, it doesn't mean like accept a punch in the face or accept people being cruel to you. What it means is it comes back to the same principle we talked about at the beginning. It comes back to having trust. And I say in the book about throwing yourself on fate. Just at some point, if you know you're going to be okay, because it's part of that internal knowing, that sort of infrastructure you already have in place, which connects you to the divine. If you know that's true, you can have enough faith in the way the universe turns and the way life works to not panic about tomorrow, to not even have expectations. Just whatever comes is fine. And accept what comes, because what comes is for your benefit. Even the bad things like your car crash or whatever you were talking about earlier, whatever happens, ultimately you're going to learn something from it. And I think people, when they get really tied up in these things, it's not just about expectation. It's just that, well, I did everything right. How come I didn't get my prize? But that's not how life works. Sometimes the prize you get. In fact, let me give you an example. There's these people want to interview me next week, and this is very relevant to what we're talking about. And I said, well, what would you like to interview me about? And they go, abundance. I go, oh, okay. In what respect? Oh, how you achieve abundance, how it feels to be abundant. Every single question they had lined up was about abundance. And I said, well, hang on a second, though, right? Isn't this leading up to the idea that abundance is a flash car or money? Well, that's abundant. It is, but what about internal, just like being abundant on the inside? Just feeling abundant on the inside and letting things be drawn to you. Well, they couldn't get this. These are prime New Age movers. They couldn't get the idea that abundance might not be the house you have or the car you drive, or it was quite bizarre. It had nothing to do with love or contentment or any of those things. And I think that's the problem. It's about how we've embraced the external, the things that prove we're of value because you can see them, and how we have actually moved further and further away. We've separated ourselves from what actually matters about who we are, which is the abundance inside. And I know it's actually almost lame, a bit cliched, but I see that that's what's making people unhappy. They are going for the expectation of abundance on the outside, and then on the inside, they're hollow and unhappy.
But we live in a world where everybody wants the latest iPhone, or they want the coolest car, or the newest clothes. And so we live in this very consumer society, especially in the United States.
Well, why do you have to be a part of that?
Well,
why do you have to buy into that? No, but I'm saying you, meaning
Yeah.
you, generally you. But why do you have to buy into that? Why can we not say, what is good for me here is this? And just do that. Why do we have to look over the fence into the neighbor's garden and say, oh, look how great his lawnmower is. I've got to have one of those, otherwise I will look like I don't earn enough money. Why has that become such an important thing to us?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. But one of the things that you've been talking about is about people listening to their inner guidance and doing things that are going to make them happy. But I have a question back to you. What impact would that have on society? So I just had a friend over that was helping lift carpet today and do other stuff, who was laid off and is pretty frustrated about the whole thing. And I was kind of asking, well, what are you going to do? But what would society do if everybody that was frustrated with their job or didn't, well, we won't talk about relationships. Let's just stick with jobs. That didn't like their jobs, just quit because they're going to go do what their heart desires.
Well, the book actually addresses that. The book is really about that. And there's a question in it where one guy says to the other one, you can't have a society like that. You can't have it. I mean, otherwise, if everybody went off and danced and sang and did what they wanted to do and ran around, in bright clothes and was very happy, and who would fix the toilets? Who would drive the trains? And I remember that came from a seminar I went to years ago where it was another kind of self-help seminar and the usual thing, but with a great guy. I'm not going to name him, but it was a great guy leading it, and I loved this guy. And somebody during the seminar, put their hand up and said, but if what you're saying is true, who would drive the trains? and everybody turned round. It's like, oh, we have a rebel in the group. This is so great. And the guy said, who will drive the trains? And then he gave an answer. And I'm not going to tell you what it is actually, because the answer's in the book, and it's actually a core part of the book. But it is true what you say, that if everybody did what they wanted to do, then nothing would ever get done. But the fact is, you are not responsible for them. And I think, again, this is one of the things that frustrates me, is that I know people who look around and they go, well, where do I fit into this tribal thinking? What do I have to do? Oh, I suppose I have to have an iPhone. Like you said, I have to have this kind of car because that makes a statement about me. But the fact is that those are the externals. It's none of your business. If everybody did what they actually in a soulful way what they're here to do, society would run perfectly, I assume. Or maybe society would not be what we imagine it to be. I have friends who are actually out of work, and they've been out of work for a while, and particularly like in the radio engineering business, it's kind of hard in Los Angeles right now. There aren't that many jobs going. And what it is doing, they've been trying to get these engineering jobs for a while, and there are no jobs going, and they get more and more depressed. And I had this conversation with a friend yesterday, and what it's actually done is, and this, again, I think is what I'm trying to say all along here, it's forced them, this apparent crisis, has forced them to ask questions that they wouldn't ask if things were going well. In the same way that disease, which we go, oh, God hates me, or this is a curse, or oh, what terrible luck. No, you did this to yourself very often. Not always, but very often you did it to yourself. It's the way you've lived your life, and it's resulted in disease. And it's the same with other things. You're being driven to say, what have I done? Am I on the right path? Should I be moving in a different direction? And the friend I was speaking to yesterday, this radio engineer, is taking a course. He's playing music now. He's getting gigs with his little band of musicians that he's got, his classical musicians. It has forced him to completely reevaluate his life. Now, if you're saying, well, as in fact another friend said last night, I said, oh, well, I hate my job, but I have to have $50,000 or I'm not moving. And I said to her, well, wouldn't you rather be happy in what you do than bother about the money? Oh, no, the money's really important. And okay, well, fine. But she's really, really miserable in her job and depressed all day. And I think that what would happen is if you listen to the pleading, the screams of your soul, telling you to release, take your fingernails out, ungrip it on what you think should happen, and release and just allow in what your soul wants to happen. I hate the word destiny actually, but I know what I mean. Let your destiny unfold as it should. You might be surprised where you end up. It might not be exactly what you wanted, but that's the difference between expectation and reality. The reality might be that you're supposed to be doing something completely different. And until you accept that, until you change and allow in your greater good, life will remain stuck. You'll remain frustrated, and you will feel like life is letting you down.
And at that same point, you might discover that having the latest iPhone is really unimportant, or having 500 different cable channels and HBO and Showtime and all of that stuff is really unnecessary and unimportant.
Well, you're speaking to the choir here. I don't have a television. I don't have a smartphone of any kind, and I don't have a car, and a bunch of other stuff I don't have. I mean, I live in a lovely house, and I have great things, but I just opted out of those things because I made individual choices. And I'll give you an example. My best friend, my closest friend in the world, died in February, and it was traumatic for me, as all death is, and especially of people very close. And this guy had waited. He'd been kind of poor all his life, actually. He'd not really had a lot of money. But his mother was wealthy. And when she died, he inherited her money and said, "Oh, finally, I get to live." Now, by this point, he was 67 years old. Oh, finally, I get to live. I get to have this house by the beach. I get to have this. From the moment she died and he inherited the millions, he was sick. Something else happened. He was always sick. He had shingles. He had this. He died in February, never having enjoyed the money. And he had everything he wanted, including all the cable channels and everything else. He had everything that you and I and society would go, oh, that's society, the way society wants you to be. But in actual fact, he was miserable, and eventually he died. And I looked at that, and that for me was one of those great awakening moments where my best friend, who had so many great qualities, but he had actually squandered his life by just waiting for the money to come. And finally, when it arrived, he died. And I thought there's a lesson to be learned in that. And so many people place so much importance in these things, and just having the same thing that the next guy has, or having the latest computer or the latest operating system on your computer, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And it honestly, none of it matters. You matter, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because you miss out on so much stuff and so much life, even if it's, I mean, don't laugh, but, when I was with Wayne, we didn't have any money, so we would go on hot dates to CVS. And we would look at the as seen on TV items and talk about, like all the weird things that we could possibly do with them. The as seen on TV. Oh, we had so much fun. I mean, we would be standing in the middle of CVS laughing our asses off at the ridiculous things that we would come up with.
Right.
That was a hot date to CVS.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's what you make of it. I remember when I had absolutely zero money and no future, no home, no. I was really in a desperate state when I first came to LA. And I used to go to Ralph's supermarket and smell their coffees. And I used to just go and open the little bins and smell the coffees. And I thought, what a sad sack I am. But there's something about doing that, about just tantalizing the senses and giving yourself at least a little something that makes a difference. And just laughing at some ridiculous thing in CVS is just as just as valuable. I don't know why or how we got to actually I do know the answer to this question. I was going to say how we got to this point where these bigger things matter so much when they really don't. But it's because we've been brought up and indoctrinated with the idea that you have to be the best, that life is about competition. It's about glory and awards and power and money. And that got us so far because it gave us aspirations. I mean, obviously, who doesn't aspire to be better than they are? But as I think we're in this transition into this new paradigm now, where we're realizing that the competition and being the best, only one guy can be the best and everybody else is an also-ran. So why even be second? That's why I look at it. Life is about collaboration and not competition. It's about just being part of something, not necessarily running it or ruling it. It's about accomplishing something on your own terms and according to your own passion and abilities, not necessarily receiving glory for it. Why do we have to be validated with trophies? We don't. I mean, just standing in CVS laughing at ridiculous products is a reward in itself.
Well, I mean, he felt bad because, we didn't go out to some nice dinner or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I would rather go to CVS and just stand there and laugh. I mean, I will never forget it. I think it was more memorable than going to some fancy restaurant or, some other activity.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the logic behind it, though. That's the thing I find most fascinating is that a guy takes a woman out on a hot date, whatever, or the other way around. It doesn't really matter. But they go out on a hot date, and the convention, the tribal expectation is that it has to be in a certain type of restaurant. A certain kind of meal, certain amount of money has to be spent, or it isn't a real date. And that is just that it's an expectation, but it doesn't have to be the reality. My partner and I, if you try to go out on like Valentine's Day, which is this ridiculously phony orchestrated event, all the prices in the restaurants have gone up, all the restaurants are jammed, you can't get service, it's all really, and the food is worse because they can't all cater for everybody. And we go to In-N-Out Burger. and we do that on birthdays and on Valentine's Day. It's our little statement to say, you do not own us. You're not the boss of us. The card industry is not going to dictate what we do on the specific day. And everybody else is just falling in line with the tribal convention. And I think that in writing this book, I mean, certainly in writing the principles of it, I remember thinking many, many times, this is so rebellious because it asked you to consider a number of situations, which you know about some of them already, but you consider a number of situations, and which way do you go on that? What is expected of you, or what is reality? And happiness lies in being in reality and letting go of the expectations. Expect nothing, accept everything. And if your date ends up in CVS, like on my very first date with my partner, we went to Pick and Save. I don't even know if they were in the rest of the country, but Pick and Save was here in LA at the time, and bought a cat litter box on the first date. That was the date.
That's as good as my CVS date.
Well, yeah, but yours was fun. This was like insulting. And I remember thinking, whoa, this is not going anywhere. But it was, why? Because we imagine a first date in a certain particular kind of way. And I think that what I'm trying to get people to do is to consider the possibility that they have been, I don't want to say lied to because that's too severe, but they've been made a promise that actually was completely bogus, and that the answers to the reason they're frustrated or out of work or their marriage is failing or whatever it is does not lie outside of themselves. You can't blame. You cannot point to somebody else and say, hey, you fired me, or hey, you left me. We had a great relationship. You can't point a finger. It's you. You did this to you. And once you take responsibility and you go for a kind of spiritual independence, inner dependence, and you rely on you and not the world, actually, I think you're on the way to wholeness. I think you're on the way to happiness, which is a byproduct of becoming more whole.
I mean, I think, blaming yourself or, I agree with you have to take responsibility.
Yeah, but why does it have to be blame?
That statement.
Blame is not even a word we should be using. Though.
It's fun to whine. But,
right.
But I think a lot of people have a hard time, kind of stopping and taking a step back and going, okay, this is where I am now. What do I need to do to move forward to making enough money to pay my rent? If you have some kind of illness and, you're partially paralyzed, what can I do today to make my life a little better? I mean, it applies in so many different areas.
It does, but I mean, like those abundance people next week that I have to deal with that were talking to me, that a lot of it depends. I mean, I don't know about the partially paralyzed person.
You have to pray to Satan, and they'll be like, okay, gotta go.
Yeah, no, if they didn't have an hour-long interview pinned down, I'm sure that within the first 3 minutes they'd be out of it. But they don't know what's going to hit them yet. But I don't know about the paralyzed person. That's a kind of slightly different agenda thing. But I think that with the rest of us, I think that, and with the abundance people were saying, it suggests that we have to do something. And I remember, every time I see an interview with Jerry Seinfeld, and people are always asking Jerry Seinfeld, "What are you going to do now?" Or "How are you going to fulfill your life now? You're not doing television or whatever." And he says, "Why do I have to do anything?" Now, admittedly, he's worth like $600 million, but the fact is that his principle is true. I mean, who says that you have to do something? What is wrong with letting life come to you? And this is another principle. It's not in the book, but it struck me a long time ago that some people, in fact, most people, chase life like it's a headless chicken. They just chase it round and round in circles, up and down. They're trying to catch it, and there is something here that says to me that maybe life is not that, because that just leads to frustration because you never catch the chicken. Whether life isn't more like a comfortable chair that you ease back in with the right frame of mind and trust and have a little faith in the way life works out and allow life to come to you. Now, that doesn't mean you literally sit in a chair and wait for life to come to you. You have to do something. But this idea that you have to do something, you have to have goals. This is that new age self-help thing again. You have to do something and have goals and set an intention, and it will manifest within a certain period of time. Well, what happens if it's not for your good? I mean, years ago I had a TV show, and it would be my dream since I was in my teens to have a travel show on TV. That was it. That was my goal. I kept it in mind. I set my intention, and sure enough, out of the blue, I'm in my 40s and I get a TV travel show. I hated that travel show. It was a horrible experience. And everything I wanted it to be, it wasn't. Everything I hoped it would be, it turned out not to be. And as I went through that agonizing experience of making that show, it suddenly dawned on me that this really wasn't what I was supposed to be doing with my life. It took me 25 years, but I thought, wow, I tried so hard to get this, and now I've got it. I realize it isn't for me. And people said, why did you leave television? Why did you give up on that? I said, because I didn't like it. It didn't resonate with me. It wasn't for me. And I think we try a lot, so hard to have things in this world where we give the appearance of achieving and winning and doing things, and we're constantly busy. And in the end, I don't know that there's any benefit to that. I don't see the rewards, because there was this, if you remember when I did the Believing book, which is the one about curing cancer a few years ago, that I gave the example of this very, very high-ranked corporate CEO who had houses on 3 continents and a private jet, and he had the life that everybody in the American dream craves, and he got a brain tumor and died. Now, so he had everything we all assume we're all struggling for, and we get more frustrated if we don't have a job because we're further away from the American dream than ever, or so we think. And there he is, and he dies with all the stuff. My friend gets his millions in February, 2 years ago, and dies in February. Too late to do it. This is what I'm wondering. And with the abundance people, what I'm tempted to say to them is maybe life is working to your advantage. And maybe what you get sometimes, not all the time, is an abundance of nothing. So that you can use that time to reconfigure your thoughts, your ideas about what life is. And if you got everything you wanted, like a lotto win, it would destroy you. What you need is an abundance of nothing right now, so that you get your priorities right. And then you can stop trying so hard. Stop trying to control life and figure everything out. Don't you think that has merit?
I do. I mean, one of the things that I have seen with my own practice is when I have periods that are slow, you know, my normal knee-jerk reaction was to stress out and like start pounding pavement or doing, something. And I've come to learn that really I need to take the opportunity to take care of myself, that I'm being given the space to take care of myself, to take care of something else that I really needed to spend the time doing anyway, So when I have periods like that come up, I just stop and it's like, okay, so what do I need to be working on, or what do I need to be doing? Even if it's, sitting on the sofa reading a book, which I really enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that's the most mature attitude. And people can't do that because they're doing the headless chicken thing, and they think they have to achieve and own and buy and accomplish, and you really don't. I mean, what in the book I have these I don't know what you call them, like the 9 steps to wholeness, I think I call them, and they're just steps you can take towards wholeness. But one of them, they're just principles really, and one of them is exactly what you just said, which is it's not what you just said, but it's a part of it. You rise to the level of your self-esteem and no higher. Now, what that says is that if you panic when things go wrong or appear to go wrong, that lowers your self-esteem. Your energy closes up, your heart closes down, everything closes down because you're in panic mode and nothing can work. You stop the flow. You stem the flow of life force through you, and nothing can actually happen. Whereas
I can't get the Ferrari because I have no energy, and I'm not being abundant that way.
Why do you want a Ferrari?
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to tell you why you want a Ferrari. Not because you don't necessarily want one. You want one because that's a symbol of you being a success. And in fact, that if your self-esteem is high enough, if your sense of self-worth is high enough, I mean really high, if it's a high vibration thing, then you will get everything that you could ever desire that you feel you are deserving of at that level. And I think what we do is we put so much, I'm as guilty of this as anybody from the past, but you put so much effort into wanting something and zero effort into deserving it. And if you take your energy that you go into, I want a Ferrari, which is usually just a sign that you're not you, but one is insecure or one has no money, but that's the dream symbol that we've finally made it. We beat everybody else and we made it. If you take that energy and you put it into deserving it, in other words, building up your self-esteem to the point where you own a Ferrari by your very being, because that's the level you've achieved in your life or a level you've attained, then that's a worthwhile expenditure of energy. If all you're doing is wanting, it's like those guys who win the lotto. You know, there's one guy, who was that guy? Bud Post, who he had $38 to his name or something, and he won the $16 million lotto. And while he physically became a millionaire, internally, self-esteem-wise, he never did. He remained a Carnival truck driver. And so naturally, because he, I guess you sink to the level of your self-esteem and no lower is the opposite of this principle. And he lost all his money and ended up, when he died finally, he was $1 million in debt and living on welfare. Because he didn't have the self-esteem to do that. So instead of doing like the external abundance thing, which is what these people are talking to me about, the having and being abundant and achieving, and so, if you actually are abundant on the inside, in other words, your self-esteem is fine no matter what you have, you're more likely to get it. If you stop wanting something, you're more likely to get it than if you want it.
But I want it. I want it. I want it all, damn it.
No, you don't, Rita. Trust me. You don't want it. You only want it because it will impress people.
Actually, I gave up, trying to keep up with the Joneses a long time ago.
You just bought a beautiful house.
I know, but now my comment is, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
I am the Joneses.
So screw you, world.
Pretty much.
No, but there's something nice about that. And you and I don't know each other, but I mean, we've talked and over the time, and it doesn't surprise me when I see that photo of your house and you standing on the porch and stuff. It doesn't surprise me you have that. You strike me as a person who kind of belongs there. And I think what we try to do, we try to slot ourselves into where we don't belong in order to be embraced, in order to be validated, in order to belong in the broader sense. And, because everybody needs to kind of believe in something, to belong to something, to be loved, to be seen. These are things we need. But if you don't believe you deserve it, and you're just trying to belong so that you can be seen to be a part of something, it's not going to work. Or even if you can force it to happen, which you sometimes can, you force it, it's a very shaky foundation. And then you end up being unhappy and frustrated and angry, and you go, why is this? I don't get it. Because your life is a lie. And I don't sense with you in that house that, just from what little I know, that it feels like a lie to me. It feels like an authentic endorsement of where you are in your life right now.
Thank you. I mean, I'll share this. This is the first time I've ever felt at home in a place. And I have to tell you, it's like this place needs so much work, but it's like I don't even care. Right. I don't even care.
No,
I'm home.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels like that. When you talk about it, it feels like it's a part of you. It's not even like it's a home. It's a part of you. And by working on it, you're working on you, because you're becoming more whole by having this space around you. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with
really you. Awesome house.
I know it is, but there's nothing wrong with you having a Ferrari. I mean, I think people go, well, that's a very socialist attitude. You don't deserve a Ferrari. I could care less if you have a Ferrari. That's great if you have one. Great if you don't. What matters is that you actually have one because it's right for you, not because you're trying to impress somebody. And people don't get that. And we've lived, I think, for the longest time. I don't know how long it is in America, but I'm thinking a long time, I mean, decades and decades and decades, whereby your worth as an individual was gauged according to whether you had the latest inventions or whatever. And I'm not saying that still isn't the case. I mean, iPhones are still, people line up around the block to get an iPhone, but it's still, you could get it tomorrow and there won't be a line. I mean, there's nothing to be. I always laugh at that. And so people who line up outside the movies to see it at 12 o'clock at night, get some sleep. See it tomorrow at 10 a.m. But there's something about our society that's how people feel that they're of value. But I think it's changing. I think the more people go through this thing we've been talking about your friend who's out of a job and my friends are out of a job, the more people are starting to go, hey, this road I'm on may be blocked. There may be not, because it used to be that you just keep on going and, yeah, the job would turn up. Now I'm not so sure. These days, I have a feeling that it's actually the road is blocked, and it's for you to go, okay, what other roads can I go down? And the people who insist on going down the same road keep up coming against the block because there actually is no way down there. It's completely blocked. The road has fallen away down a cliff. There is no road. But they keep on going down there because that's all they know, and they don't trust in life. But sometimes, and actually a lot now, I notice it's happening, people going, hey, maybe there's another road. People who've been married before, who used to think that marriage was the only thing you could ever have that validated you, now go, hey, I actually like life on my own. I like having my friends around me. I like not being obligated to somebody. That's happening a lot, I think.
Well, and I think, you started off the conversation about it being an interesting time, and I agree with you. We are really in a new paradigm with what's going on, and we don't have a roadmap, and the roadmap that we have had, there's a whole lot of new streets on it. That Rand McNally is really out of date, because we're really operating on something that came out of the 50s. Exactly. And it's not really valid anymore.
No, but I mean, it takes a while for people to realize this. And I think that there is a lot of, again, it's the difference between reality and expectation. Some of us, without sounding too lofty, some of us have realized that reality has hit. Many people are still living in the expectational state that things are going to carry on as normal and that they don't have to change. And they're pinning their hopes on the world continuing as they expect it to continue. And it ain't going to happen. And I don't say that with any kind of prophet's abilities. It's just what you can see around you. You're being asked to reconfigure your life. There's a threshold being crossed. Something has happened. Whether we know what it is, suspect what it is, want to guess what it is, that's not my field. But something has happened. And if you look around you, the world is changing at a fast rate. And if you're not prepared to go down a new road, and you want to stay where you are and just prepare to – it's like those old sci-fi movies. Are you going to get on the spaceship and risk incineration by going to a new planet? Or are you going to stay on this one and hope that things get better even though it's on fire? And it's that kind of old sci-fi thing. And, of course, you get on the ship and go and hope you survive.
You take the red pill or the blue pill.
Exactly.
But anyway, our time is up. This went way too fast. Well, you've been so busy, I didn't want to keep you for like 2 hours or anything.
No. I got to go, actually. I got things to do, but it's been lovely.
Well, I always love having you on. I always, you have those interviews with people, and it's like, oh, they came out with a new book. I can have them back on. It's always very exciting for me.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Your book comes out next
week, yeah. Why Your Life Matters. It's going to be in paperback and an ebook, and we'll see what happens. It's very, very exciting.
So I'm assuming that they could pre-order it on Amazon if they wanted to.
I guess. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know anymore. People have asked me these questions for the longest time. I don't know. Just try. If it's not there, it'll be there in a couple of days. And I know that the response to it already has been pretty good for people. So stick around, try and get it if you can, and see if you agree with it. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there.
And don't just look at the cover and go, hey, cool title. But
no,
anyway,
you wouldn't. No, please read the rest of the book, for God's sake.
But no, my time is up. The music should be coming up. Actually, the music should already be up, and I'm probably talking over myself. So you have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Rita. Thank you very much. Bye.
That's Cash Peters. His book is Does Your Life Matter? His website is cashpeters.com. And next week, we'll be speaking with Dr. Norm Shealy about living bliss, and in the second hour with Shelley Wilson about Journey into Consciousness. And until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio. Point your browser